mid movie at best, not gonna lie. I mean, compare to like nowadays, I can agree, but when it came out, like early 2000s, it was one of the best war movies, let's be honest. Like,
Stand by. Attention on deck!
this one is gonna hit a little bit close to home because it's probably one of my favorite war movies ever, and it was one of the reasons why I joined the military way back when in my time. So yeah, we're gonna watch BlackHawk Down, historically wrong, cinematically perfect by Shooting Blanks. I watched his Lone Survivor video, and then I saw this in the recommendations, and then I started watching it, but then I wanted to react to it. So YouTube, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check me out on Twitch, link in the description below. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and get it in 3, 2, 1, and boom.
Black Hawk Down is one of the most well-known war movies of the 21st century, but it was berated by historians as soon as it was released for its rewriting of history. The movie apparently likes to leave out key details to push the narrative in a certain direction, and as many armchair historians point out, it's just disrespectful to everyone involved.
Yeah, that's
fair. The movie
fair.
depicts the events of the 1993 Battle of Mogadishu.
I remember watching, I think it was last year or the year before that, when Netflix had the Black Hawk Down official documentary release. I remember watching that and I was like, yeah, like the movie did not tell a lot of things, let's be honest here. A mid movie at best, not gonna lie. I mean, compare to like nowadays, I can agree, but when it came out, like early 2000s, it was one of the best war movies, let's be honest. Like, you got, comparably to like around the same time, I guess, what, compared to like Saving Private Ryan, of course this one was a little bit lacking, but for a modern, you know, quote unquote modern interpretation, even though it's mainly is nonfiction, so I mean, you know, take what you will, it's still Hollywood though, I think it was pretty good.
Otherwise
the camera
known as
work
the
could
Black
have
Hawk
been
Down
a little
incident,
bit
or
better
one of
though.
the U.S. military's biggest disasters in modern history. 18
That's
men
true.
never returned home, and 84 were wounded on a mission that the United States could have chosen not to take part in, leaving everyone wondering why did it happen. The movie, which is based on a book of the same name, kind of tells us the truth, but it also leaves out inconvenient truths. Before opening that Pandora's box, let's take a look at the packaging, the era-accurate, fairly grounded loadouts wrapped in a nice bow. Also, we have a big announcement to make, so make sure you watch the video until the end. There are so many guns in this movie, it would take a 2-hour-long video to go through them all in detail, so we'll instead just focus on the most important firearms. Starting off with Delta Force operators, we see most of them with Cold Model 727. This is a variation of the M16A2, also known as the government carbine, and it's unrealistic that special operators would use it. It's likely that the onset armorers used the Model 727
Even
as
back
a stand-in
then?
for 2 other Cold models, particularly the Model 723. The United States military equipped their special operation forces with Colt Model 653 and Model 723. Delta Force adopted the 723 in the late 1980s, and they used it as their standard carbine until the adoption of the M4A1 in 1994. The guns are similar enough to stand in for one another though, so this isn't that big of a deal.
So it's a bit of a
nitpick.
nitpick.
Immersion.
It's a bit of
all
a
three
nitpick.
variants have 14.5-inch long barrels, and they're all part of the same platform, so it's almost impossible to tell the difference.
Yeah.
A major difference that we also can't see on the screen hides in the calibers. The 653 model is chambered in 223 Remington, while the 723 model fires 5.56 NATO, just like the 727 model that represents it in the movie. There's also the fact that models 727 and 723 both come equipped with the A2 compensator, while 653 uses the A1 birdcage. This is, however, very difficult to spot in a movie without close-ups. Something that the movie,
especially when the camera work is a little bit shaky at times. So I mean, like I said, back then this movie was like top tier. Nowadays, it is lacking in some cases.
pays attention to and deserves credit for is carbine customization. Delta operators used a lot of tape in Somalia to make their magazines easier to grab, tape them together for faster reloading, or tape flashlight switches to their guns. Some of them also used rubber bands to attach flashbangs to their magazines. In a few stills, we can see that the carbines in the movie also have duct tape on them. Aside from the 727, we also get a few glimpses of the Model 733 standing in for the 723 and 653. We also get a glimpse of a Model 733 eerily similar to the gun used in Blood Diamond. This is something we talked about in our video on Blood Diamond, which we highly recommend you watch if you haven't already. The same prop company worked on both movies, so it's entirely possible they recycled some of the guns. The 733 is also used by Master Sergeant Gary Gordon in his heroic standoff, and that inevitably leads us to one of the most iconic lines in war cinema history.
Gordy's
Good.
gone, man. I'll be outside.
Good luck. Damn, bro.
A lot of M16s are equipped with
To this day, any type of BlackHawk down or any type of wars similar like this, man, someone in the comment section is types that in. Gordy's gone, man. I'll be outside. Fuck, man. It's close to heart, man.
Aimpoint Cop M2 red dot
Rest in
sights,
peace,
which is
man.
probably the biggest mistake surrounding the most common gun in the entire movie. The M2 was unavailable until 1995, almost 2 full years after this mission took place, and most operators, both Rangers and Deltas, used optics available at the time, such as Aimpoint 2000, 3000, and 5000. The Rangers predominantly used M16A2s, and some of them used Model 727s, which were ironically used by Deltas in this movie. Something interesting we see in the movie is the use of tape on both the magazines and the stock, as we can see in this still. Both Deltas and Rangers did this in real life. The tape on the magazines provided grip and made it easier to pull a magazine out of the vest. The tape on the stock is there to hold the sling upwards, allowing the rifle to be slung upright. Fun fact time, the little bird pilot on the left is actually Chief Warrant Officer Keith Jones. He's the actual pilot who saved Staff Sergeant Daniel Bush in real life. He's here reenacting something that he really did and was awarded a Silver Star for it.
That's
Some
dope.
M16s are fitted with
That's
grenade
dope as
launchers
fuck.
or Cobra CM203 flare launchers.
He probably I don't know. He was probably still in the military at that time, but if he was out, he was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let me go back. Let me do it. Let me do it for a movie.
That
For the
stand
one
in
time, for
grenade
his
launchers.
boys.
Specialist John Grimes, however, is fitted with an actual M203 grenade launcher that we see him successfully use. Also, did you know that John Grimes is one of the few names in the movie that was changed from real life? We can't get into it because of
really?
YouTube rules, but we invite you to Google John Grimes BlackHawk Down for yourselves. Spoiler alert, the reason why they changed his name rhymes with tape. Sergeant First Class Randy Shughart uses an M14 rifle when he and Gordy defend the second crash site. A lot of movies use the Springfield M1A in place of the M14 because the two are so similar, but we get an actual M14 in BlackHawk Down.
That's
we know
sick.
that because of the fire selector, which is clearly visible here.
That is
we
sick.
can also see here that Shughart's M14 comes equipped with an Aimpoint Comp M2, which, as explained before, wouldn't be available at the time. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Michael Durant, the pilot of one of the downed Blackhawks who was captured and later released, defended himself from Somalis surrounding his crashed bird with an MP5A3. In real life, however, pilots were issued the MP5K as their personal defense weapon. The weapon was soon retired from this duty because the 9mm rounds proved unable to stop armor-wearing combatants, or
Why didn't they? Are you serious? The MP5K to this day is still one of the most iconic and probably the most favored MP5 variant. Why did they change that? The only thing I can think of is they didn't have MP5Ks on set. That's the only thing I could that I can think of. But I mean, I digress.
combatants on drugs. Mogadishu was one of the examples of that. The final weapon used by US troops we'll go over is the SAW, or to be precise, the FN Minimi, used in its place. The SAW is, at the end of the day, the American adaptation of the Belgian Minimi, so these two can be used almost entirely interchangeably in movies. The SAW is also central in one of the more realistic scenes in the movie.
What?
The VA will really look at this and say your hearing loss and tinnitus are not service related.
True.
Used by the operators on the ground, it would be wrong not to devote at least a bit of time to the titular birds at the center of the incident and the movie. The UH-60 Blackhawk helicopter was produced in the 70s and 80s by Sikorsky Aircraft. It's a utility helicopter, meaning that it's used for troop transport, command, evacuation, and fire support, and we see the Blackhawks in the movie used for all of these purposes. It was designed specifically to be transported aboard a C-130 Hercules, Hercules, and it can carry 11 passengers with around 2,600 pounds of cargo, while it can additionally lift around 9,000 pounds with a sling. It can, for example, move a 4-man crew of a 105mm howitzer with 30 rounds of ammunition and the gun in a single lift.
Workhorse.
The Battle of Mogadishu incident wasn't the first instance of a Black Hawk getting shot down. In 1991, 2 Black Hawks were shot down on a search and rescue mission as part of the largest air assault mission in U.S. Army history, with over 300
Operation
helicopters
Iraqi
involved.
Freedom, right?
4 Black Hawks, call signs Super 6-1, Super 6-2, Super 6-8, and Super 6-4 were hit with RPGs in Mogadishu, and while 6-1 and 6-4 crashed, Super 6-8 managed to return to base. Super 6-2 inserted snipers Gary Gordon and Randy Shookhart to protect Michael Durant, who had crashed earlier, and while providing cover to the snipers, Super 6-2 was hit with an RPG. It ripped through the engine and knocked the co-pilot out, but the pilot managed to safely land away from the battle in spite of the critical damage. The Black Hawk, despite its very cool name, is not an—
Wait, seriously? That happened and they didn't show that in the fucking movie? Really? Come on. Because, well, with Super 6-8, we're shown in the movie, at least, that they were just getting shot at by AKs, not by RPGs. Okay, I guess that's like a little bit of a discrepancy. But Super 6-2? Yeah, Super 6-2 got shot. And then some fucking horrific things happened and they didn't show that? Are you serious? I would have loved to see that in the movie.
attack helicopter. However, that doesn't mean it can't be armed to the teeth. Depending on availability and need, a BlackHawk can be armed with 2 M240 machine guns, 2 M134 miniguns, or 2 GAU-19 Gatling guns. In the movie, we see the BlackHawks armed with M134 miniguns. We don't see it in the movie as it didn't happen in real life, but you can also mount stub wings on a BlackHawk and you can turn it into a makeshift attack helicopter with 70mm rockets, air-to-ground and air-to-air missiles, or additional gun pods. The U.S. Army
would have been
plans to
very
replace
fucking
BlackHawks
smart
by 2030, with Bell's V-280 Valor winning the initial design proposal. However, it's still a long way from being introduced into active service.
Yeah, let's be honest. To this day, BlackHawks are still being used. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know? BlackHawks is still a very, very hard-working workhorse.
As for the Somali loadout, the RPG-7 and the Chinese Type 69 RPG are the most important Somali weapons by a country mile, at least when it comes to the central incident. They used them to damage 2 and take down another 2 helicopters, as well as use it as a makeshift impaling device against one driver, which was actually based on a real event.
Damn.
The original RPG-7 is perhaps the most well-known infantry anti-armor weapon. It's of Soviet design, and despite the popular opinion, RPG does not stand for rocket-propelled grenade, but that name was adopted because it fits with the original acronym. RPG actually stands for the name you can see on the screen, which I won't even bother pronouncing because I know I'll butcher it, and it translates to handheld anti-tank grenade launcher. And when you think about it, rocket-propelled grenade is close enough to it. It's been used by— it would actually be easier to list the countries that didn't use it, and that probably tells you enough about its popularity.
Yeah, true.
It's
basically Western countries don't use this thing.
Estimated that more than 9 million units were built, and after the Cold War, entire warehouses of RPG-7s were emptied and moved all across the world. That's how they spread and how they eventually got into the hands of terrorists. If you dig deep enough into Soviet weapon history, you'll find that this is the very same explanation for most of their weapons spreading all around the globe.
That's the thing too, right? Like, okay, RPGs are tried and true rocket launchers, right? Everybody knows how to use them. They're devastating and whatnot. Why the hell don't Western countries adopt them? Is it because they're Soviet designs? Do they want to be different by having like the AT-4 and shit like that, more complicated? What the hell's going on with the weapon manufacturers? Why don't they make something similar to the RPG? I mean, like I say, if it's not broke, why fix it? So like, why not create an American version instead of a one and done like the AT-4 and the other shit that we've had? This is maybe I need to go to fucking weapon school.
Why is the RPG-7 so popular? Because it's cheap to produce and easy to handle, although we don't condone that here on Shooting Blanks. There are documented instances of children using RPGs. It's very effective in the hands of the right person, and a single user can easily carry half a dozen projectiles with them. It can take out anything from tanks to helicopters and entrenched positions. And as it is with everything, and that's literally everything that was invented at some point in human history, if it exists, there's a cheap Chinese copy of it. And for the RPG-7, that copy is the Type 69. We won't be wasting too many words on this weapon, but it uses the same projectiles as the RPG-7, and since they're so visually similar, they're often used in place of the original RPG in movies. In a line with the RPGs, the Somali loadout is pretty much what you'd expect from a paramilitary force. Zastava M72, AKS-74U, G3, and Chinese Type 56 and Type 56-1, copies of the AK-47 and the AKMS. All of these weapons were common across battlegrounds all around the globe at
Hey, crazy. If you're still in chat, your favorite guns are being shown.
the time. What wasn't common in Mogadishu were technicals with recoilless rifles. Technicals were, mind you, very important in Somalia at the time. The power of a Somali warlord was even measured in the number of technicals he possessed. Pickup trucks with mounted dishkas and 50 cals are perfectly fine, but a pickup truck with an SPG-9 is insane. A recoilless rifle is basically lightweight artillery that can be operated by 1 or 2 operators, and it makes a big boom, similar to the RPG-7, but generally with a limited range and less force. Maybe the most famous example across military history is the M18 recoilless rifle used in the Second World War. Shout out to all the Company of Heroes nerds, by the way. The recoilless rifle we see in this movie is the Soviet-made SPG-9, and just what the hell would it be doing in Somalia? The audio commentary for the extended cut of BlackHawk Down actually says that the crew knew this never happened in real life, but they added it for dramatic effect, and that's just sad. We're
like what the fuck, really?
And with that, we're pretty much done with the firearms in this
lame.
movie. Of course, there are a few more guns that appear for just a second or two of the movie's runtime, but instead of focusing on them, maybe we should take a look at the combat realism of this movie. If there's one
that's
thing
enough
Black
about
Hawk
the
Down
guns.
can pride itself in, it's combat realism. It's not flashy, it's down to earth, gritty, and at times uncomfortable to watch. There are 3 things we'll highlight here, and these aren't just things we loved when watching the movie, but things that thousands of people, many of them combat veterans, point out as incredibly accurate online. The first one is the iconic hiss snap scene.
We're not being shot at yet! How can you tell? A hiss means it's close. A snap. Now they're shooting at us!
What he probably wanted to say is, a hiss means it's close, a snap means it's really close. And ever since this movie came out, the internet has been up in arms debating about whether this is true or not. Some people say that the snap he's referring to is the sound of the round hitting something, any object close to you. When the round hits an object that's far away, you wouldn't hear it in all the commotion, but when it's close to you, it's so loud that you can immediately recognize it's a sure sign you're being shot at. There is, however, another explanation, and that has more to do with physics. Rounds that are fired at a supersonic speed, a speed greater than the speed of sound, produce a snapping sound. Any object traveling at speeds greater than the speed of sound will produce a snapping sound, and since bullets are so small, their snapping sound is difficult to hear, and you can only hear if it's close to you. This indicates that you're being shot at and that the round is supersonic. Rounds that are fired at subsonic speeds, slower than the speed of sound, whistle or hiss as they move past you. So whether bullets...
Yeah, see, I was never in combat, so I don't know the difference between the hiss and the snap. But I have shot before, so I mean...
Maybe these sounds because of proximity or simple
More
physics
stuff for me.
is still up
More
to
knowledge.
debate, but they really do hiss and snap, and the movie got that part completely right. Do you know the definitive answer to the hiss-snap question?
I don't,
Let us know in the comments below. Chris Van Sant, a former Delta Force operator, praised Black Hawk Down. He personally knows some of the men who fought in the Battle of Mogadishu, and one thing the movie depicted really well, according to him, is the chaos. How easily everything can turn on its own head because of factors you can't control, and in this, he's completely right. A lot of Hollywood military movies give their characters plot armor. Everyone else gets shot except for them, and even if they do get shot, it's just a graze. They survive point-blank IEDs, and random, unpredictable screw-ups never happen to them. In Black Hawk Down, Blackburn falls out of a helicopter as soon as the operation starts because of an RPG. An RPG impales a driver, and your teammate accidentally destroys your eardrums. This is just a fact of war. Things that you never expect would happen are
that is
going to
true.
happen, and you just have to deal with them there in the moment. Another especially realistic thing, and this leads us to our final point, is the fact that American troops are on the back foot for almost the entire movie. They're just trying to plug hole after hole in a sinking boat, and they're never the ones defining the dynamics of combat, which goes against the US military doctrine. This leads to battle fatigue over the course of the movie. The actors portrayed this really well, and you can see that the soldiers were dead tired by the time the rescue convoy arrived. Not only that, but you, as a viewer, become tired of watching them fighting. Every time they engage the enemy, someone dies, someone who was trying to save someone else, and as the movie gets closer to its end, you see more and more soldiers reaching the end of their ammo supply, and it's just tiring to watch. The Mogadishu Mile scene is the culmination of this. Now, this is a bit of a dramatization, as in real life there were many more soldiers, and they weren't running, they were walking the Mogadishu Mile in a tactical formation, and they didn't walk the entire way to the Mogadishu Stadium, but to a rendezvous point where a convoy was waiting for them.
That's something that the game got right, like the old, what was it, 2003, 2006 BlackHawk Down game? They got that part right. This thing, it is, running the Mogadishu Mile, it works for a movie. It works for Hollywood. But for a book, a video game, actual realism, you know, the facts, yeah, there's no fucking way. Even the best of soldiers, Marines, whatever, they're not running a fucking mile after being awake for like 24 plus hours after being shot at thousands of times. Like, it works for Hollywood, but that's about it.
The dramatization helps us understand how they must have felt, though, as these guys started down the Mogadishu Mile at 5:40 a.m., at which they were hungry, dehydrated, completely exhausted, and low on ammo. When that scene starts in the movie, you, as a viewer, reach the peak of anxiety as you just want them to get the hell out of there and get this mission over with, and you can only assume how anxious they were to get to safety. With that, we can only commend the realism of this movie, but how about we also take a look at historic realism? Before we do that, though, we have an announcement to make. As you guys know, this is a new channel, a channel that everyone's working very hard on, and a channel that aims to stay truthful to its viewers with genuine content in an era of AI slop. Everything you hear is narrated by a real narrator, every word was written by a real writer, everything you see was edited by real editors, and this channel is managed by real producers.
Hell yeah.
We're more than aware that the videos aren't perfect, but trust us
hey,
when
you
we say
guys
that
do
we
what you guys
read
do,
comments,
man.
and we appreciate
It's very
every
good
bit of
content
feedback we get. And if you would like to support us on the channel,
like I said, I've already watched their Lone Survivor video, and I'm watching this video. I'm probably gonna watch a few other ones off screen, but I did see something. They're basically, I saw a fucking movie, Equilibrium, that they just previewed. I might save that for the queue because I like that movie, so I might react to it. We'll see.
Besides liking and subscribing, you can show the love on our new Patreon. Now, you might be thinking, oh great, another cash grab from a cool new channel I was getting into, but we won't stop publishing our videos here. Our Patreon subscribers will, however, get access to videos that are a bit longer, like the BlackHawk Down video that goes deeper into the history of the RPG-7 and the recoilless rifle, and explores exactly how so many Soviet firearms ended up spread all across the world.
Stuff. That's cool.
Aside from access to our extended videos, a Patreon subscription puts you in the position of a producer. We already rely on your guys' comments for movie suggestions, but our Patreon subscribers get to pitch specific ideas.
A good portion of the plot isn't really accurate or didn't happen at all. They basically, as they do, always wash the whole thing. Yeah, pretty much. Classic Hollywood bullshit, you know? Classic Hollywood.
Ideas you want us to go over. You want to deep dive into how realistic the tanks are in Fury? You know a fun fact about a movie that no one else seems to talk about? Or are you obsessed with that one scene in that one movie nobody talks about? As a member of our Patreon community, you get to pitch things you want us to research and talk about. Our Patreon supporters will also, of course...
They did say something about 13 hours. I might watch that as well. I like 13 hours. That movie was great. The event wasn't, but I'm willing to, I'm gonna look after this video, after this reaction. So if they did a 13 hours video, I'm gonna put that in the queue.
Get end credits shoutouts on our videos and gain access to discounts on Patreon only merch. Check out the link in the description if you want to know more. Now back to the video. If you caught our video on Enemy at the Gates, you know that we'll always pay attention to historical accuracy in military movies, and boy did we rip into that movie. In comparison to that, Black Hawk Down looks like a documentary, at least in terms of historical accuracy, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. Now, this movie isn't inaccurate, it doesn't openly tell any lies, and it doesn't misrepresent a whole lot like a certain Mark Wahlberg blockbuster, but it also doesn't provide the viewers with the entire context.
Long story short, TLDR about Lone Survivor, that entire movie is complete bullshit. It's fabricated. What the hell is his name? I forget the name of that SEAL. But basically, what he was saying he went through, it did not happen in that movie. Not to disrespect the fellow brother in arms, but he was kind of he was kind of a cat, you know, the swear word that means cat. It was his fault that some of his brothers died. I'm gonna be honest. I'll say that.
Way too much research, we could compare Black Hawk Down to the Mona Lisa. But imagine if you only got to see 2/3 of the legendary painting. You wouldn't exactly call it complete, right? It's a bit odd because the things that are missing from this movie could have easily been added without significantly prolonging the runtime. But it just seems like that wasn't the goal for Ridley Scott.
Yeah, he's not wrong. Like, every time I've watched Black Hawk Down since, like, a child, like, I've always felt like this movie should have been at least 30 to 45 minutes longer. I think probably because one of the reasons because they didn't include Super 6-2 getting shot. That probably was part of the reason, but
because of this, people online are calling it a pro-war, pro-America movie that refuses to acknowledge the sacrifices of other military forces in the area. Military history experts are also saying the movie is demonizing the Somali people who were, in spite of the events of the movie, largely friendly to UN forces for the longest time. And on top of that, it's trying to depict American forces as altruistic, confronting Aidid for interfering with food and aid for starving citizens.
He's not wrong about that too, because they mainly focus on the Rangers and the Delta forces during this entire conflict, but the U.S. Army Division, the 10th Mountain, they were there. I have a few friends that were in the 10th Mountain Division during the time of Mogadishu, and I've talked with them about it. She was a combat medic, and she remembers the time where she was deployed to Somalia, and then they got the call that, hey, Black Hawks got shot down, everybody needs to get mobilized. She was like, oh, what the fuck, why didn't they call us before the whole situation happened and whatnot? There's the Pakistanis, the Malaysian troops there. It's like, they focused a little bit too much on the Rangers and whatnot, but I guess that was part of the point of this. They were the ones mainly in the suck.
When in reality, that has nothing to do with the reason behind the operation. Here's the rundown. The movie opens with an info pack saying that Mohammed Farah Aidid is the most powerful warlord in Somalia, ruling the capital, Mogadishu, which is fairly accurate. What follows is a line saying that he seizes international food shipments, using hunger as his weapon. The United Nations responds by sending a 20,000-strong Marine force that restores order by ensuring food deliveries. Once the Marines withdraw, Aidid declares war on the remaining UN peacekeeping forces. In June of 1993, his militia ambushes and slaughters 24 Pakistani soldiers and started targeting American personnel. In August, the United States deploys troops to remove Aidid permanently. All of this is kind of true, but the story is incomplete. For one, Aidid's troops didn't ambush Pakistani soldiers without reason. The movie presents Aidid's men as savages who engaged American troops for basically no reason, and that's just not true. The UN, most likely by accident, turned many Somalis against them. Before we even get...
If you guys have watched the Netflix documentary about it, it's true. You have real-life Somalis that lived through essentially Black Hawk Down and all that stuff. They even said themselves that they were working with the U.S., but something happened between them and like U.S. forces that they turned their backs on the U.S. So yeah, that part is true.
Get into this. Let's preface this by saying that it is absolutely not the intention of this video to make terrorists who caused the deaths of more than 300,000 people look like victims. However, it's important to fill in the blanks, and one of the biggest blanks in this movie is the lack of explanation as to why some Somalis were so hostile. In 1993, the UN was attempting to turn Somalia into a democracy by working with local leaders, and the biggest threat to this plan was Mohammed Farah Aidid, who had previously shown he was willing to slaughter and starve his own people to remain in power. In an attempt to limit Aidid's influence over the Somali people, the UN tried to sabotage Radio Mogadishu, the most popular radio station in the area at the time, beloved even by people who didn't support Aidid. The mission, which was officially covered up as a weapons stockpile inspection, ended up in a shootout between Pakistani troops and locals, with 28 Pakistani soldiers dying. After this incident, the UN decided to outright hunt Aidid down instead of just limiting his influence and taking him down politically. Resolution 837 called for the arrest of the people responsible for the deaths of Pakistani troops, with Aidid's Somali National Alliance being blamed. UN troops had shoot-on-sight orders for Aidid. This became the first ever assassination greenlit by the UN. On the morning of July 12th,
Yeah, as someone who brute forces RTS games such as Halo Wars and like Command and Conquer and stuff, brute forcing isn't always the way to go. Like they fucked up big time during this event. They really did. The UN and the US forces, they really did. They honestly, man.
1993, the CIA informed the UN of a plan by the Somali National Alliance to launch an attack on all UN officials in Mogadishu. 10th Mountain Division and QRF air units, which were on standby for days waiting for the go word for this mission, were immediately mobilized and assaulted the gathering of high-ranking Somali elders, thinking Aidid would be there. The attack resulted in the deaths of more than 50 Somalis, largely civilian, and it left more than 160 wounded. Among those killed were potential allies and prominent politicians who opposed Aidid and who were ready to establish a democracy in Somalia. Aidid, in the meantime, was alive and well. He didn't even attend the meeting. To add salt to the wound, the CIA report on the planned attack was later found to be incorrect. The city was then engulfed in chaos as every single UN position was attacked, with the troops retreating into their fortified compounds, and everyone, even friendly clans, turned against the UN. The SNA would start to conduct planned, premeditated operations against the UN. In August, attacks on UN personnel doubled in Mogadishu, and bombing incidents killed 4 and injured 7 US soldiers in only 2 weeks. After that, President Clinton approved the deployment of a task force to end this absolute disaster of a mission, but little did he know it would lead to an even greater disaster, with the US military facing, at the time, the worst post-Vietnam casualty rate. During the Battle of Mogadishu, many Somalis who were not affiliated with Aidid joined the battle against American troops. This included women and children, something that's only touched upon in the movie but isn't properly explored. This volunteering against American troops relates to what was just said. Everyone hated the UN for what happened earlier, and they were eager to run them out of their country.
TLDR for chat and YouTube. Basically, it was a huge fuck up by the higher ups, and the ones that paid for it were civilians of the Somali population and the troops that died there. Like, if it wasn't for the damn higher ups being so fucking stupid, a lot more people would still be alive.
This context is incredibly important because it makes it clear that American troops were sent to deal with a disaster created by the UN, and it also helps us understand why so many Somali fighters were ready to take up arms against American troops in Mogadishu. The information we're blasted with at the beginning of the movie makes it look like the Somalis turned on UN troops as soon as they touched ground in Somalia, which most definitely didn't happen. The UN's gross mismanagement of the political mission in Somalia directly turned the Somali people against outside influences, no matter how well-intentioned they might have been, and in the end, American and Pakistani troops paid the price. This is, however, just one of the many instances in which Ridley Scott forgets to add context to the story. Credit where credit is due seemingly isn't a thing in this movie, as Malaysian and Pakistani forces that relieved American troops toward the end of the mission aren't properly credited. Malaysian troops not only fought in this battle, but one peacekeeper died while rescuing American troops when his Condor APC was destroyed. Major Jeff Struker himself praised Malaysian soldiers who helped American troops.
Again, I can't thank enough the Malaysians for what they did that night, and other forces from the U.S. Army's 10th Mountain Division.
Scott apparently didn't deem their bravery worthy of a more important role, depicting them as nothing more than
basically committed war crimes and made a movie to watch it. Yeah, basically.
Troops, although all soldiers survived the battle, their role has been diminished in the movie. Pakistani M48 tanks and M113 APCs were instrumental components of the relief convoy, and they barely make an...
And it was mainly the UN as well. The US was just there just because they wanted to be there. They didn't have to be there, as stated in the beginning of this video, and stated since this event has happened, there was absolutely no reason for U.S. forces to be in Somalia. But the U.S., being the kind big brother to the rest of the world, it's like, you know what, we'll go in there and help you. But we lost troops there, and it was like there was no fucking reason for the U.S. to be there. No reason at all.
Appearance in the movie. To quote Ronald Spiller, an assistant professor of history and a veteran of 29 years active and reserve service in the Army, although a good war movie, Black Hawk Down is a failure in terms of explaining some of the fundamental assumptions and conditions that underlay Task Force Rangers operations.
Yep.
Scott's goal obviously was a commercially successful film, not a documentary. It'd be hard to call Black Hawk Down a bad movie. It does give off the impression that it's kind of hurrah and pretends it's anti-war when it's actually pro-military, but it's still overall a good movie. It is also an especially good war
Kind of
movie.
Big Brother.
Regardless of
Hey,
its historical accuracy,
you know
the
it's
depiction
true.
of combat is incredible. The battle scenes depict decision-making and the events of those fateful 2 days very immersively. What this movie lacks, however, is historical context.
Yep.
We don't get to see the real reason why this entire fiasco happened. We never get
Yep.
to see why the mission was conducted in broad daylight, even though Task Force Ranger had already conducted several missions before, almost all of them during nighttime. We don't get to see the political and military disaster that the UN caused in Somalia beforehand. We don't ever get to see the outcome, the American troops leaving Somalia for good. Just as
Yep.
General Garrison predicted before the battle, they won the battle, but they lost the war. While they did capture high-value targets, so many American sons died that the only sensible thing to do was abandon the country in which the United States had no real stake, and
Yep.
that was ultimately Aidid's goal. We never get to see any of this, and we never get to see more than 1,000 Somalis, the majority of them civilians, killed or wounded by American troops. This movie doesn't lie, but it certainly pulls its punches, and it leaves a lot of blanks to fill. So
Yep.
for historical accuracy, we can give it a 6 out of 10, and even that's generous.
I give it about a
Firearms?
4.
Much better, a solid 8 out of 10. The 727 standing in place of the 723s and 653s is fine, but we can't take that recoilless rifle seriously. It's the biggest reason we're dropping points, and we also see a lot of operators use M2 sights, which weren't available at the time, and we have to take points off for that. However, the representation of the majority of guns is very grounded and realistic. If only Ridley Scott were as motivated to represent history the same way, this would be a much more honest movie.
Honestly,
What did
true.
you
Low-key, they should remake Black Hawk Down with Michael Bay. I said they should remake Black Hawk Down, but director Michael Bay. He did phenomenal with 13 Hours. I want to see what he can do with something like Black Hawk Down.
think of Black Hawk Down? Did you read up on what really happened, and what's another war movie you want us to break down for realism? Let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, like I said in the beginning of the video, I enjoyed Black Hawk Down as a war movie. When I was a kid, I thought it was just, you know, your everyday war movie during the time, and it was part of the reason why I signed the contract and joined up. I wanted to be a Ranger back in the day, but when I joined in, I was like, yeah, fuck this. But then after I grew up and I was like, actually read the book, and then I was watching documentaries, and especially with that Netflix documentary about Black Hawk Down, seeing the real life operators, the ones that survived, talking about it, and then Somalis talking about it and whatnot, it's like, bro, what the fuck was going on, bro? It pissed me off because I was a Joe, you know, I was your standard foot soldier. If I went into something like that and then I find out 10, 20 years later that the main reason why my brothers that I trained with, fought with, and they died and shit was because the lack of goddamn clarity from the higher ups, I would have been fucking pissed, you know? I didn't go through Black Hawk Down, but as a fellow fucking soldier, that someone that signed a contract, it pisses me off because, like, there was no reason for any American to die over there. No reason. But because of the arrogance of the higher ups, we lost a lot of sons, brothers, fathers, and shit. So, but the movie, I liked it, and I still like it to this day. But knowing that, like, it could have been longer and better and have a lot more, you know, stuff, I'm a little looking at the movie, it's like they need to remake it, Loki. They should honestly remake it. But YouTube, let me know down below what you guys think of the video. What do you guys think about the events that happened in Black Hawk Down and all that stuff? And remember to follow me on Twitch to watch some of these reactions live and watch me play video games. Yeah, I love you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.